Whalaflahi atu hane tau walatala tutupu gelata moe a whiawhinei. Ko e aho I nea whine whakahoko ai e whanui ke pole ni ko tuku atua e pepatupi mai tau uafe hongwhmahonu ke he uafe hongwhawhitu ke whatutala ke lata moe tutoanga ke ua moe toluaki. A few members of the Niuean Legislative Assembly walked out of chambers during the Niuean Legislative Assembly meeting to discuss the budget for 2016 to 2017. Glitz and glamour of Niuean High School Jubilee Ball brings former students and teachers together, marking 50 years since the school was relocated to Paliasi. The Alofi South community turn up in numbers for the Village Show Day held over the weekend. The Niuean Legislative Assembly was in session yesterday to discuss the annual appropriation bill, the budget for 2016-2017, which was in the continuation of second reading. The Public Accounts Committee report was also tabled, as was tasked by the Niuean Legislative Assembly. A motion was put forward by the chairperson of the PAC Committee for the Assembly not to undertake a committal process, considering the committee had already done this work on its behalf. 12 members agreed to that motion, and as a result, 6 of the members of the Legislative Assembly left the meeting. The members expressed their dissatisfaction regarding restrictions from the Speaker about the length they wanted to discuss the budget report, claiming that he was stifling their rights as elected members of the Assembly to ask questions on the estimates.
The difference is the attempt by the Speaker to prevent debate of the budget. It is an important responsibility of the House to debate the budget. We may not be able to change the numbers, but we still debate it and analyze it, not only for our benefit as representatives of the people, but also for the people who listen to the debate. And as is not the case, normally people ask questions, which we will then bring to the House and we ask those questions. So basically, the Speaker has gagged debate on the budget, and we cannot debate it. Very unusual. First time ever that he took that option. The committee is a committee of the House. We delegate responsibility for them to go and take a very close view of each line item with officials, because officials cannot come into the House. But from that exercise, they will come and assist us understand. Every time we come up a line item, we ask the question, they should be able to respond and explain why such and such is. But it's not their business to approve the budget on the Assembly's behalf. It's their business because we can't all go and talk to the officials. The business is to discuss the issues with the officials and come and report to us. They are taking advantage of numbers, which is something that they don't understand. The democracy is ruled by the majority, but respecting the rights of the minority. This is very an issue that should be of concern to the people of this country. When you gag debate, especially by somebody who is not an elected member of the House, because the Speaker over here is not an elected member of the House, and he shouldn't be interfering with the right of the member to speak. There are reasons, and there are good reasons for him to interfere, but the way he's doing it at the moment, he's just acting as if he is the boss of everybody, rather than trying to facilitate debate, and that's an issue of concern.
Today, there was a motion that was passed that we are not allowed to have the House in committee to discuss in detail the bill, because if you are in committee, you have to speak 3 or 4 times as long as you like. But today that was not allowed by the House. The other thing was that already 10 people have agreed to the budget, including, in addition to them, there are 4 ministers. So already you have 14 who have approved the budget before it came into the House. So there was nothing to talk about. But there's a lot to talk about in the report of the budget committee. So these these are things that we need to know and ask and debate about the report of the Select Committee on Finance. And it would have only taken about 2 hours, and we would have agreed in the budget because the Premier asked us to spend only the morning on the budget. And I would agree. I said I agree with the Premier because there's not much to talk about because already 14 people have agreed to it before it came into the House. So that was it. There's nothing to debate about. It's been approved before it came into the House.
However, the Speaker of the Assembly is uncertain why the members walked out.
I'm still trying to work out in my own mind as to, what has happened. I mean, these are matters that have been dealt with, that we have gone through, we have dealt with through the House since the last 2.5 odd years that I've been in office. The issue, as we start off, was the question of changing the status of the House from a normal meeting to a committal stage. And there was a motion on the floor that there should not be any change to committal stage. It should continue as a normal meeting of the House. Some members were in disagreement with it, but there was that motion on the floor. It was seconded. Members expressed their disagreement with the motion, and in any democratic jurisdiction, the final process of such motion in Parliament was a vote. They made their decision to walk out of chambers. That's all right. I mean, that's their right as members. The only disappointment I had was that there were a lot of unnecessary skullduggery and bad talk towards me, towards my position as Speaker, and towards the House. The House, I have always respected the House. And the opportunity for members to raise issues, raise questions is still there, still on the floor. They did continue with that yesterday after they left. The restriction was, although 10 minutes, I mean, that's in accordance with the rules of the House. They speak once, 10 minutes. But there has been a lot of flexibilities on that through the years.
In the end, 14 members were present, all voting for the Government of Niue budget for 2016 to 2017, and this also meant that the PAC report was endorsed by the Assembly. In addition, the State-Owned Enterprises Group budget was tabled in the House through the PAC committee to review and go through the same processes that were used for the recurrent budget, and that was also approved by Cabinet. The Assembly endorsed the recommendations regarding the SOE Group budget presented by the Public Accounts Committee. This is the first time that the budget has been passed in just the morning session in comparison to previous years where it would normally take a day or more. Niue High School's Jubilee Ball was a glitzy affair as former students and staff arrived at the multi-purpose hall to mark 50 years since the relocation of the school from Halamahanga to Paliasi. The hall was packed with excited ball-goers and filled with music from the live band Island Pride. The school organizing committee put in a lot of effort to creating the right atmosphere for the occasion that was enjoyed by the majority who were there. There were also a few competitions on the night that made for some interesting parading of hairpieces, faux shirts, and also best dressed singles and couples. The night ended with much dancing and looking forward to the next event in October that will wrap up the 50-year celebration since Niue High School was established at the Paliasi grounds. Halamahanga School grounds was covered in a sea of green as the community of Alofi South held their show day on Saturday. The community decided that this year's show day would be based on 50 years since the Niue High School was shifted from Halamahanga to Paliasi. Food stalls dotted around the field provided the crowds with nourishment, and a variety of games kept people entertained. During the formal part of the program, the Alofi South member of the Assembly thanked the village for their ongoing support, but especially the village council for their leadership and guidance. Premier Toke Talangi expressed his gratitude to the people of Alofi South for offering their land for a number of government's national developments. The women's handicrafts filled up the shelter area, while the men's carvings and agricultural displays were also plentiful. One interesting event this year was a wheelbarrow float parade, where stall owners decorated and put produce on display in a wheelbarrow. The 50-second dance-off competition also proved rather entertaining before the show day concluded at midday. And that concludes our news bulletin for this evening. Do join us again for our next news bulletin on Thursday. We would like to express our sincere sympathies to the families of Ezra Talamahina and Lamosa Siantuato for your loss.